The Thing. When you take claustrophobia, add some deep-rooted paranoia, and drop a shape-shifting alien monster into an Arctic research base, you get a masterpiece. You get The Thing. 12 men on the base, one alien, and no way to call for help. The creature doesn't just kill you, it becomes you, cell by cell, until no one can tell who's still human. It replicates its victims perfectly, enabling it to hide in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. One by one, the crew turns on each other. Friends become suspects, and the isolation and paranoia is so intense that it penetrates the fourth wall. By the end, the base is burning and everyone's dead, except for MacReady and Childs. MacReady sits alone after setting the base aflame, and out of the shadows comes Childs. They sit by the burning ruins of the base, dying in the cold. Childs had vanished earlier. Now he's back, and something's off. MacReady hands him a bottle of whiskey. Childs drinks, and the eerie music starts. MacReady chuckles, and the movie ends. Some fans think the bottle was filled with gasoline, a trap to expose the Thing, since it wouldn't know the difference. But if the Thing retains all memories from the assimilated, it would know the smell of gasoline, right? Then again, it might just be whiskey, and the monster just outed itself, because it now shared a drink with another crew member, something that they were all specifically told not to do previously. Others point out that Childs doesn't breathe. In the sub-zero air, we see no condensation from his mouth. But it is probably just the lighting, since the Thing was seen breathe condensation previously. But what if it is MacReady who is the Thing? It offers the bottle, and it laughs because it knows it's already won. The director John Carpenter has stated that there is a right answer. One of them is the Thing. There's a giant hint in the middle of the film, but the actors didn't even know it. But then again, Carpenter might just be trolling us all, since he has also stated that the 2001 game is canon, and in it, Childs is dead, and MacReady is a pilot. So who's the Thing? Childs? MacReady? Both? None? Maybe we'll never truly know. All quiet on the Western Front. The First World War was a meat grinder, and no book explains that grim reality like All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque. It is the war to end all wars. A noble fight for the Kaiser and the fatherland. At least, that's what the teachers said. That's what the posters promised. Our protagonist, Paul Boehmer, enlists in the Imperial Army at 18, straight out of school, alongside his entire class. They march off in clean but unfitted uniforms, full of patriotic fervor and blind idealism. That innocence is almost immediately devoured by the trenches. The entire book is a slow, agonizing process of attrition. The war systematically strips away everything from Paul, his innocence, his connection to civilian life, and one by one, every single one of his friends. At one point, he's given leave and returns home to his village, only to find that he no longer belongs. The literature he once loved means nothing to him. The people in town lecture him about strategy and victory, yet they know nothing of the mud, the blood, or the screams in the night. He realizes they're living in a different world, one untouched by the truth. When he returns to the front, he ends up in brutal one-to-one combat with a Frenchman in a mortar hole during a patrol, only to spend the entire night with the dying man in a crater, hiding from mortar shelling. The French soldier cries out for hours. By morning, he's dead, and Paul, shaken to his core, begs the corpse for forgiveness. In the end, only one thing keeps him going, the bond with his comrades. But even that is taken away from him. The death of his mentor, Kat, finally breaks him. He reaches the final pages completely hollowed out, existing only as a shell. He no longer dreams and no longer hopes. He believes his entire generation has been made superfluous. Men who will never truly return to the world. And then we come to the final chapter. On a day in October 1918, when the fighting is so minimal, the official report simply reads, "All quiet on the Western Front." On this day, Paul is killed by a single, stray bullet. His death is as meaningless as the war. It is completely unheroic and happens just weeks before the armistice. When his body is turned over, his face is described as having a calm expression, as though almost glad the end had come. The Mist. The worst thing that comes with The Mist isn't the monsters, it's the societal collapse. In the movie, based on the Stephen King novel, a violent storm rages, and a strange mist rolls into a small Maine town, bringing with it something impossible: giant, predatory insects, tentacled abominations, beings so massive they shake the very ground. The mist is a gateway to an alien dimension, spewing horrors into our world. People are torn apart in the streets, and the survivors barricade themselves inside a supermarket, trapped between the monsters outside and what they're becoming inside. Fear quickly turns neighbor against neighbor, as religious fanatic Mrs. Carmody whips the terrified townspeople into a murderous, human-sacrificing mob. But the true horror isn't just the monsters or the acolytes. It's the choices people make when they lose hope. David Drayton, our protagonist, manages to escape the store with his son and a few others. They drive for as long as they can, hoping to find salvation, or at least a clearer view of what's happening. They find neither. The fuel runs out. Surrounded by an impenetrable, creature-filled mist with no hope left, they make a pact. A mercy killing to escape the monster's fury. David takes his pistol and shoots every single person in the car. First his companions, and then his own young son. They're one bullet short, so David steps outside to die. And then, the mist clears, the army arrives, and the monsters are on retreat. The camera stays on David as he collapses, screaming in disbelief. His desperate act of love became an unimaginable, irreversible tragedy. The Time Machine. H.G. Wells's The Time Machine is a story of Victorian curiosity and cosmic horror. A brilliant inventor builds a machine to leap across centuries. At first, he travels to the distant year 800-2701, expecting progress and enlightenment. What he finds is something else entirely. Humanity has split into two species. On the surface live the Eloi, delicate, childlike beings who spend their days in idle play, surrounded by abundance. With no challenges left, they've lost the intelligence, spirit, and strength that once defined humanity. Underground dwell the Morlocks, pale, ape-like creatures who maintain the hidden machinery that sustains the Eloi's world. They seemingly control the Eloi, breed them like cattle, and evidently feed upon them. The time traveler realizes humanity has diverged into two castes. The aristocracy, softened into the Eloi, and the working class, once servants, hardened into the Morlocks. Civilization didn't advance, it regressed. The future is stagnant, soft, and carnivorous. He travels forward again, arriving in a desolate age where the dominant forms of life are eerie, kangaroo-like creatures and enormous scorpion predators. Knocking one of the rabbit-like beings unconscious, he realizes with horror that it resembles the Eloi. The Morlocks and their prey have degraded even further. But the real darkness comes when he pushes millions of years beyond that. He arrives on a dying Earth beneath a swollen red sun. Giant crabs crawl across the shore. Fragile butterfly-like creatures drift weakly through the dim air. His final leap lands him on a frozen, silent world. The only life left is moss clinging to rock, and a single tentacled creature flopping on the beach, almost causing him to faint from terror. He returns home, recounts his journey to his skeptical dinner guests, and promises to go back for better proof. Then he departs once more, vanishing into the future. This time, he never returns. And that's the true darkness of the time machine, the implication that he went further still, into some unimaginable, even bleaker future, so horrifying that he never came back to speak of it. When the Wind Blows. When the Wind Blows is one of the most devastating anti-war stories ever put to film, mainly because of its extremely likable main characters, Jim and Hilda Bloggs. They are the embodiment of British stoicism, an aging rural couple who survived the Blitz during the Second World War. They believe that if they just keep calm and carry on, they can survive anything. Now, they live in the Cold War, and it is heating up. When the radio warns of an imminent nuclear strike, Jim follows the Protect and Survive pamphlet to the letter. White paint on the windows and paper sacks to lie in during the blast. While they are still planning their defenses, the radio proclaimed that a strike is 3 minutes away. So they scuffle to their makeshift shelter, and then the bomb falls. The house shakes, but they make it through, just like before. Or so they think. They emerge expecting rescue trucks, radio broadcasts, or some sign of the government. Instead, they find only silence. The phone is dead, and the power is gone. After a couple of days, they dare venture outside, where ash falls like winter snow, and the sky is now permanently gray. And still, they wait with stubborn optimism, as the guide dictates. Jim brews tea on a camping stove, while Hilda makes plans for errands once the crisis blows over. They talk about the shops, the doctor, and that the authorities must be coming any day now. But no aid, no rescue, and no message ever arrives. The systems of the world are simply gone. What does arrive is the inevitable radiation sickness, slowly and relentless. Radiation soars, and the horrifying sight of Hilda's hair falling out in clumps. We witness their exhaustion and the quiet, subconscious realization that help isn't coming, because there's no one left to send it. Jim clings to his outdated optimism, promising to fetch medicine from the non-existing chemist, even as his own body fails him. The final scene is utterly heartbreaking. Near death, they crawl into their paper sacks, waiting for the emergency services, but unconsciously, they are burying themselves. Jim tries to pray, but forgets the words, and mixes it up with the military poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade. With her last breath, Hilda begs him to stop. Outside, the ash clears. The sun rises over a dead world. And the radio taps out one final word in Morse. MAD, Mutual Assured Destruction. $1 Million Baby. At first, $1 Million Baby feels like a classic sports story. Maggie Fitzgerald is a waitress from nowhere with nothing but drive. She walks into Frankie Dunn's gym, begging for a chance. But he finds her to be too old and inexperienced. But she refuses to quit. Eventually, her persistence and charm wins him over. Under Frankie's reluctant guidance, she climbs the ranks fast, knocking out opponents in seconds. Frankie gives her a Gaelic nickname, Mo Quisla, but refuses to tell her what it means. Maggie is pretty successful and saves enough money to buy her mother a house. Her mother rejects it because it would affect her welfare checks. It's a telling moment for what comes later. Maggie earns the shot she's been fighting for her entire life, a $1 million title fight in Las Vegas. And then, in one illegal punch, it all ends. Her opponent hits her from behind after the bell. Maggie falls, shattering her neck on the corner stool. And in an instant, the story changes completely. She survives, but only technically. Paralyzed from the neck down, she is dependent on machines to breathe. Maggie watches her dream dissolve. At one point, Maggie eagerly waits for her family's visit, hoping they will cheer her up. But they arrive late because they had the audacity to go to Disneyland instead of spending the day with her. And when they finally arrive, they brought a lawyer. They only came to visit her in order to transfer her assets to them. Maggie curses them out of the room, but it's the spiritual knockout that seals her fate. In addition, her body begins to break down. Bed sores, infection, and an amputation. She thanks Frankie for giving her her one shot, enabling her to achieve everything she dreamed of in life. And then she asks him to end it. Shocked and conflicted, he refuses. But her relentless will shines through yet again as she bites off her own tongue in a desperate attempt to bleed to death. Eventually, Frankie makes the impossible choice. He enters her hospital room one last time and tells her that Mo Quishla means my darling, my blood, and gives her the injection. Maggie is finally at peace, while Frankie disappears into the night. Requiem for a Dream. Some movies are so depressing you can only watch them once. Requiem for a Dream is one of those, but I watched it a second time just so I could make this video for you. You're welcome. Anyways, this film isn't just about drug addiction, it's a descent into the absolute annihilation of the American dream. We follow 4 characters, each chasing a beautiful fantasy, only to have reality snap back and destroy them. Sarah Goldfarb is a lonely widow, clinging to her TV set for purpose. Her son Harry, his girlfriend Marion, and their friend Tyrone are heroin addicts chasing a better future. A clothing store is supposed to be their way out, a chance to be somebody. But it all goes down the crapper. Sarah receives a call inviting her onto her favorite game show. Desperate to fit into her old red dress, she starts taking amphetamines, quickly spiraling into addiction and psychosis. She hallucinates laughing TV hosts and an attacking refrigerator. Meanwhile, Harry and Tyrone try to make some quick cash by dealing heroin, but they're small fish in a world filled with sharks. Tyrone is arrested in a shootout he didn't even participate in. Their clothing shop money is all used for the bail, and Harry pressures Marion into prostitution to fund their next fix. Surprisingly, their relationship takes a hit. Harry and Tyrone head to Miami to buy heroin wholesale, but have to stop on the way, since Harry's arm has become gangrenous from heroin use. At the hospital, the doctor reports them, and they are both arrested. Harry's arm is amputated, and Tyrone endures grueling labor and racist abuse in prison. Marion, utterly broken, works for a pimp and trades herself for drugs. Oh, and poor Sarah is hospitalized after a public breakdown and subjected to electroshock therapy, leaving her catatonic. The film ends with Marion clutching her score on the couch, surrounded by crumpled clothing designs. Each character then curls into the fetal position. In Sarah's mind, she's a radiant game show winner. Harry appears, engaged and successful. Mother and son embrace in a fantasy that will never come true. Dr. Strangelove. Dr. Strangelove is a dark comedy masterpiece that shows the absurd apocalypse brought to us by a paranoid madman worried about fluoridated water. General Jack D. Ripper unilaterally launches a nuclear strike on the Soviet Union, convinced they're poisoning America's precious bodily fluids. The bombers are already in the air, and due to Cold War protocol, they can't be recalled without a code only Ripper knows. In the war room, chaos erupts. The US president tries to explain the situation to a drunken Soviet premier over the phone. The Soviets reveal they've built a doomsday machine, a failsafe designed to wipe out all life on Earth if they're ever attacked. It cannot be stopped, it cannot be disarmed, and no one told anyone it existed. Paranoia spreads, fists fly, and the president has to step in, asking people not to fight in the war room. Meanwhile, Dr. Strangelove himself, a wheelchair-bound ex-Nazi scientist with a rebellious arm that keeps involuntarily saluting his Führer, outlines his solution: survival in underground mines, with a strict 10-to-1 female-to-male ratio. For genetic diversity, of course. Eventually, the recall code is found, and the bombers are called back. All but one. Major T.J. King Kong rides a falling nuclear bomb like a rodeo bull, waving his cowboy hat as it drops, directly into the Soviet target. In the war room, Dr. Strangelove suddenly rises from his wheelchair, exclaiming, "Mein Führer, I can walk." Alright, that was some of the darkest endings in fiction. Let me know in the comments which ending you think is the darkest, and why. There will be more, so stay tuned. And as always, thanks for watching. Cheers.